In this lesson, we're going to have a look at how to do a stock take, which is an annual or can be an annual event where once a year we do our stock take, particularly at the end of the financial year when we're trying to get our numbers right for our stock valuations. The other thing is we might do periodic ones, say once a month, once a week, to just square things up and make sure things are where they're supposed to be and we've got the right numbers of them. So let's have a look at that first. So we landed on the Discuss app. Let's go into inventory. Now in inventory, we land on our overview page. We've got some menus up the top. But first thing we do, let's have a look at the configuration first. So I'll go to settings. Now under settings, we could have gone through the other way too, which I've mentioned a few times now, going through the menu down to settings and then navigating to this page. But what I do want to point out is that there is an annual inventory date set in the system, and the one that's set when the system is installed is the 31st of December. Being in Australia, we tend to use the 30th of June as our final financial date of the year, but that depends on your business or your company and what period your company chooses to use. So this can be adjusted accordingly. Feel free to go in and adjust yours to the 30th of June. Or whatever's relevant, but for the sake of this exercise, just pointing out where to set that. I won't worry about changing that for the sake of this. The lesson still won't make a lot of difference to the lesson. Let's now that we've got that. Now that you're aware where to set that, feel free to go and change it. We'll dig in now, and we're already in your inventory app. So we'll go to operations and then inventory adjustment. So this is where we go and look at our stock to adjust it. Actually, before I do that, remembering that we've got the reporting features here as well. So we can generate inventory reports where we can see what products we've got and what locations they're at. We've got forecast inventory where we can see some of our stock based with consideration of forecast. So here's all our stock up the top, and if we want to add or remove ones, we can simply click on it to remove it, or click on it to add it back in. And we can look at that in graph views, pie charts, and any other pretty formats we like. And we can adjust what we want. So there's not a lot here. It's either quantity or count. Being a forecast. The other reporting, inventory valuation is one that we tend to do around that stock take time, particularly for getting a value of all our products we've got in stock. So for tax purposes, it's important to know how much stock you've got at any point in time, or the dollar value of it. So by going through the report and inventory valuation, I can see it straight away how much in value in dollars I've got in stock. And if I want to pick a particular date to do that valuation out, I can run through a little wizard here which pops up to say, well, when do you want to do that valuation? I'll cancel that. And the other thing is the product moves, and this is quite a detailed report for every single move for that particular product. Now it's not very detailed here because we only have a handful of moves, but over time this will get quite lengthy. But it's the good thing is that you can go and find that information if you need to, if you know a particular date or you're looking for a particular product to see where it's moved in and out from. You can also see this on the product sheet as well. So let's get back to the stock take. So typically you go to do an inventory adjustment is where you tend to go and count the stock you've got on hand, so count the quantities and update your on-hand quantities accordingly. So I might want to choose to do certain products, or I may choose to click the select all button, which is up the top on beside location, and that will pick out all products, or unselect it and no products, and I can just go and pick out particular products I want, and I can go and do things with those products. I'll run through this, and then the next field we've got is the location field for where the stock lives, or where it is, I should say, and then the product names. So 7 Wonders Jewelers down the bottom here, but it's in the rear rack, but it's also that we've got one copy out the front on the basically the counter is what that one is, and then we've got some on the left wall display. Moving across, we've got the quantity at those locations, how many we should have at those locations. We've got a counter quantity, which at the moment's blank, but we'll see how we can fill that in. And we've got a differences column, which is the same. We'll see how that can get generated. A schedule date, so when we install the system, we get that 31st of December as being the scheduled date for our Stocktake, and that's what this is telling us. So on the 31st of December, someone's got to come in and do a Stocktake. If there's been a user assigned to that particular Stocktake, their name will appear here under the user column. And then we've got a history, so it can be really handy if you're trying to find out what activities happened in terms of stock adjustments. We don't have any in the system yet, so it doesn't tell us too much. And we can set a quantity here as well. So if I click on the set button, it then opens this up and says, okay, the quantity on hand was 1, the counted one, we assume there's going to be 1, but we can go in and change that to whatever number we counted. You'll notice that the difference is then calculated automatically for us, so we know what's going on. We can then apply that, which I won't do just yet. So if we're doing a Stocktake, let's say today is the 31st of December, we've got to do this Stocktake, great. I wanted to go and do a count on all these products at all these locations. I can just do that. I can either walk around with a tablet and dial in the numbers as I go straight into this field using that process of clear setting and go so forth. But sometimes maybe you've got forklift drivers that are driving around, you don't really want to give them tablets in case they run over the tablet or drop it or whatever else, for whatever reason. What you can do is select the ones you want, or in this case I'll select all, and you can print out a count sheet, and that will generate a list where I can go and say, okay, I'm at the front counter, 7 Wonders Jewel, I should have 1 there, so the available quantity should be 1, the stock on hand should be 1, and then I can go and fill in the number I actually counted, and do that for all the products. So that's really handy. I'll print that out and have someone walk around with a printed sheet if that's the way you choose to do it. I mean, these days most people will be able to use either the screen on their phone or a tablet, and they'll be able to walk around and do it quite easily. So let's say we've got an adjustment to do. Another scenario might be where you're not sure, you're not confident in the quantity on hand price. So this says it's got 8 of these settlers game in this location. That's the front rack, but you're not quite sure. So what you can do is select that product, and then we can request a count. If we request a count, we'll say when do we want to do the count. So this is not when is the count due, this is when am I actually going to do the count. I can set a user, and I can set an accounting date there as well. I can choose to leave the amount empty, So what they will do is, instead of, you might notice in that report that the counted quantities was whatever number was in this field. I might want to leave that empty. And the good thing about leaving it empty is that if the people go around and you've got the set quantities, the current value in there, they might just take a glance and go, oh yeah, I reckon that's 8, and not actually physically count them. But by leaving it empty, that forces them to actually count them. Well, at least humans being humans, if there's a box of them, then they've really got to, they shouldn't really estimate. Is what that's trying to get around. It's not foolproof, but at least it's something. So we can set a date, set a user, and we can leave it empty. So I'll confirm that. So now there's a count there to be done. I left it on today's date. So because it's today's date, and if I know I've got a count to do, I can go into the filters and just say select to count, and it brings up the products I need to count. So this can be really handy in situations where you're not confident in a particular quantity of product. You can request a count, and then someone will go and count it. In our situation, because we're running a small shop, you might have just yourself, or you might have 1 or 2 casual staff, and you can sort it out. You can pretty much do it quite easily. But if you're in a bigger company and you've got lots of places, because at some point we hope you do grow to multiple locations and so forth, so you might need to, these tools will become very handy. So let's say that we think that in that WH stock front rack, which is our storeroom, so this probably should be renamed to storeroom just to make it more intuitive, that I should have this product, this quantity, and now we'll go and count them. So let's say we go and count them and we find we've only got 6. So I'll click away just to make that happen. And now you can see the difference is -2. So with -2 that are either missing, maybe they were, God forbid, stolen or something, then at least we know that we've got to bring our stock back to right number, and then we might need to have some review or something like that on how we surveillance in the shop or whatever we might do. Anyway, getting a bit off track there. So what I can do now is that hasn't actually done anything except for told us that we counted 6 instead of 8. So what we can do now is apply it. So I can click the apply button, which will then apply that 6 to the stock onto the on-hand quantity. Now, if you've got, let's say, a couple hundred products that you're doing a count on, to go through, set the quantities, and then click the apply button can be quite tedious. So we can do an import, which we've looked at in other exercises, so we won't go through that here. But the point of this is that we can click the apply button, but I can also do a select all, and then I'll get the apply button up the top. And that means any with a tick beside them, it will apply all of them at once. So I don't need to go through and do manually one by one by one. So that can be a real time saver as well. So let's apply this and see what it does. So it's saying, give us a reason for this inventory adjustment. So you might call it Stocktake of this date, or you give it a name that is something that is meaningful to you if you're looking for it later on. I'll leave that as is and I'll just apply it. So we've still got that to count filter on, so let's remove that and we go back to our full list. And where's that product? There it is. So we can see we've only got 6 of this product here now, which is correct. So at least this column now will be accurate, even though we've lost a couple of products somewhere along the track. And as I said, what you do about that is up to you, whether you increase your surveillance or or someone's damaged it and has scrapped it without going through a proper process of putting things into a scrap location, that kind of thing. Nevertheless, at least your quantities are right, so you can run your business, you can keep running your business and go and deal with the other problem of loss too with some other process. But that's it. So basically that's our stock count. We can come in here to do our stock adjustments. We can schedule a date for a count. We can do that and request a count for the whole lot if we want. We can go through and print out the count sheet. We can go and record the counted numbers against the actuals. We can go and update the actuals by putting in the counted quantities and then setting or applying the differences, or applying the new counted quantities to that field. And that gives us all that information. We also had a quick look at the different reports we can pull out, particularly evaluation is probably very handy for tax purposes, to go and get your quantity of stock at any particular date. And I think for this lesson, that's enough for now. So I will see you on the next one.